Hi YouTube, it's me Itsu, and as a cosplayer I know it's really intimidating making cosplay shoes or altering shoes for cosplay, so I decided to basically gather up all of the information I know and from all of my experience of making cosplays of tips on what to do when it comes to your shoes. Okay, so from my experience there are two major ways of altering your shoes for your cosplays. The first way is painting them. The second way is making boot covers or covers for already made shoes or making covers for already made shoes, which can be intimidating actually at first. Now onto the first part, which is painting your actual shoes. Now, when you're painting shoes, you always kind of want to start off, you want to look at the cosplay, then you want to look at what kind of shoes you'll be needing, then you want to find a base shoe for your boot covers and shoes that you're going to be painting. You need to find a base shoe. Great places to look for them is Goodwill, you can go to thrift shops for them, you can go onto eBay, Amazon, find the cheapest shoe you can and then alter them, because it's really expensive to find shoes that are exactly like your cosplay, if you can even find them in the first place. A great kind of shoe to start painting on is a plastic or synthetic plasticky material. Normally it's like leather, pleather, plastic, stuff like that is perfect to be painting on. This I'm actually not going to be painting on, making a cover for this. You can use all sorts of things to color and draw onto your shoes. For example, this shoe was actually just a gray boot, and I took a paint marker and basically drew all the designs on there. It was easy, it was simple. It took a little while because there's just spots all over this already gray boot, but it worked out perfect. When you're working with shoes that you want to paint, you have to be very careful about where the shoe has its bends, like where your foot is in the shoe and if it's going to be bending a lot, because that kind of decides on what kind of paint you're going to be needing to paint the shoes. Another way to draw in or paint onto shoes is using outdoor acrylic paint. You can also use normal paints. This is basically just a almost empty bottle of outdoor paint. You have to slather on lots of layers on it until you can't see any of the color that the original shoe was, and you can set it with a set spray. I don't have that with me right now because I'm entirely out of it, because I used them all for my last cosplays for my last convention. You can use normal acrylic paint, but I don't normally suggest using normal acrylic paint because it has a tendency of cracking a lot more than outdoor paint through lots of wear and tear. So does outdoor paint. Outdoor paint will go through the wear and tear because you are wearing this. It's not like you're painting a birdhouse and leaving it outside just to sit outside. You're literally wearing these shoes. For example, this is one of the shoes to a pair of shoes that I had painted for a Tharja cosplay. Now I was wearing this during the winter time. It's still winter, it's snowing, it's cold, whatever. During the actual winter time where there was lots of snow on the ground, and I had to last minute paint these shoes because I didn't have enough time to go buy other paints for the shoe. So I used normal acrylic paint and I had set the shoe. I used a setting spray to seal all of it, but I had fallen down in the snow. I'd walked and trudged through the snow many times, tripped, fell, walked all over, the cement, and I will still have cracks on it. As you can see, this is lots of damage here, and even the tip that was colored eventually wore away. So if you're going to be painting your shoes, you might want to consider buying a lot of paint, because you're going to have to put layers on it if you're expecting to wear it more than one time. And you're going to have to seal it really well with other things, with sealants or Mod Podge or any other thing that you can think of that can seal paint. Another kind of shoe you can paint on that's not like made out of leather or plastic is like a canvas shoe like this. Don't look at the inside, it's like really messy and dirty. No one sees that, my foot's in there. Is a canvas shoe. Now when you use canvas shoes, you'll have a harder time painting it with a acrylic paint. You're going to have to use fabric paint that is flexible because it is a canvas shoe and it's going to be flexible. You can use fabric paint on leather shoes. It doesn't seem to work as well from my experience, so I normally only use fabric paint on canvas shoes. Another great kind of paints that you can use on shoes is actual leather paint. They're a little bit pricier than buying normal acrylic paints or outdoor paints, but I find it's really worth it if you plan on wearing these shoes a lot. Now I don't have the leather paint with me because I just borrowed it from other ways of altering your shoes. Now you can make boot covers. Boot covers starts off kind of intimidating, and then once you get the hang of it, it's really easy. You can do it all the time. To make boot covers, you're going to have to get materials like a stretch fabric or a bootleg material to make the cover with. Now, when you're making the boot cover, you have to consider whether it's thigh high and it's going to have to be skin tight, or if it's just like a normal boot that can be saggier and doesn't need to have that much stretch in it. So the materials you can use is like this. This is a fake leather, has very little stretch. I got it from like Hobby Lobby one day really quick, and it doesn't stretch. It's really thick though, and it makes for a great boot cover if you don't need it to be super high and super tight onto your leg, because it just has a normal boot material. It's great. It's really durable. It can actually withstand, you know, going outside, walking around in it. Other kinds of materials you can use is vinyls or PVC fabrics, which look like this. PVC fabrics are basically normal fabrics. A lot of them have stretch to them, and they're covered in like a thin sheet of plastic. Now this is a two-way stretch, so it only really stretches this way and has a hard time stretching the other way. This is a four-way stretch, so I can stretch it this way, I can stretch it that way, and it's great. I recommend when you're making boot covers that are thigh high or have to be super tight to your leg, always use the base fabric, especially if there's another design in it. Use a base fabric to be a four-way fabric, or else if you use a two-way fabric, it's going to be less breathable, you won't be able to walk in it as well, be generally uncomfortable. Now an example of a boot cover is my Satsuki boots, which look like this. This is my second boot that I actually made. I made a first boot out of two-way stretch pleather. I believe it was a vinyl that I got from like Joann's or something, and it was utterly terrible because I sweat so much because there's no breathing in that fabric. There was absolutely no flexibility in it. It was hard to like walk in it because it was super tight and constricting, so I went online to places like Spandex World and bought four-way stretch fabric, which is the base, and the blue design on it was a blue two-way stretch fabric, which I just showed you. And if you want a tutorial on how to pattern and sew a thigh-high boot cover, put a comment down below and I will make one for you. Other shoes that you can use to make boot covers are normal flats. A very plain shoe, you can just cover right over it. Other shoes you can use, again, are like leather-based shoes. You can use fabric-based shoes. You want to make sure shoes are simple. The main thing you want to think about when you're buying these shoes is what the sole looks like and kind of the shape of the front of the shoe. For example, this is like a ballet shoe, just a normal flat. So when you put it on, there's not going to be too much of a sole on here. You're not going to have like a huge chunky bottom part of this shoe. I'm going to be covering this shoe up later, but I'm not covering it up now because using it for a tutorial of what it looks like before you cover it. I actually don't have the covered one yet. All of these shoes are for cosplays in the summer and spring and upcoming fall. Now, one of the main issues with making boot covers is how you end off the shoe, like how you seal the boot cover at the bottom or under your shoe, in other words. Now, two methods that I've used is to sew it. So, you know, you sew the fabric sheets together. You can use spandex, vinyl, stuff like that, and if you sew it together, the problem with it though is that it will wear down eventually. That's always the problem I've come down with all of my boot covers, is that most fabrics are not durable enough to withstand you walking everywhere. Especially vinyls and spandex, like normal spandex fabric, will have a hard time staying there. Like it'll just wear off and grind off from the cement and walking through dirt and stuff like that. So what I've come to learn to do is to end your shoe, end the fabric right at the edge of your shoe. Now you can see the shoe under it is kind of messy. It has tape on it and stuff because I used this shoe previously. But under the shoe is the normal sole that is supposed to withstand walking through dirt, walking on the cement. I cut the vinyl to measure up against the shoe, and then I used contact cement, which is my favorite thing in the world. Contact cement, which I have got from Walmart. You can find it in your do-yourself, like home repair parts of your stores. You probably go to Lowe's, Home Depot. Get a bigger container. I got a smaller container just to start off, just to see if this project would actually work. Now I used contact cement to glue down all of the edges. of the shoes, and it's worked perfectly. Now, using normal spandex with contact cement, you will have a harder time keeping it to hold down. You will have to press down onto it and hold down onto the fabric for it to stay, because it is contact cement. It's used to basically being used on things around your house, like, you know, woods, plastics, stuff like that. So vinyl and foam and anything else is absolutely perfect to be used with contact cement. I use this on my Satsuki boots, and so far my Satsuki boots have basically withstood me walking around, going upstairs, going onto the sidewalk, going through the dirt, through the snow, and the vinyls have not peeled off yet. So that is a really, really great way, and my preferred way of keeping the flaps onto your shoes and keeping the, you know, shoe completely covered in its boot cover. The problem, however, is that you will not be able to use the base shoe again unless you peel off the actual boot and the glue, which will harm the boot cover and kind of tear up your shoes. So you kind of have to get a really cheap pair of shoes and just deal with always having that pair of shoes, because boot covers, you can unsew the bottom of it and put a new boot cover on it. But again, it's not my preferred way. Now, other ways to alter shoes, if you have really weird designs on them like wings, or they're just generally just a really weird shape, you can use foam and warbler. Wow, this is really blending with me. Foam or warbler you can use for making designs like wings on your shoes. You can cut up pieces and put extra details on your shoes. You can use warbler. I haven't got my warbler in the mail yet because I'm going to be using warbler and foam on a pair of shoes for a cosplay this upcoming summer and fall. So I don't have the warbler here yet. I am sorry. So I don't have an example of a shoe using these details. So yeah, I basically gave you guys some basic tips on making boot covers and painting your shoes. And if you have any questions or have any comments, if you want a tutorial on how I make boot covers for thigh-high boots, patterning and making it, sewing it, then you can leave a comment down below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll continue making more cosplay help videos. Thank you!